Lots going on worldwide, and our state house is abuzz with last-minute stuff.
The Dan York State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
Great to have you aboard. Thanks very much for tuning in to my State of Mind. A little bit later on in the broadcast, you're going to meet the top executive for the Boy Scouts of America here in Rhode Island. Big stuff going on with that organization, and we'll check in as we go. In the meantime, lots to cover this evening. Welcome in on this Tuesday evening in the early summer. And of course, summer is on the mind of our legislators who hurry to get things done. To the Speaker's credit, he hasn't jammed a bunch of late night sessions into the last couple of weeks here, but they're doing a lot of quick and sometimes sneaky stuff. Let's go over here and kind of check on what's happening. In the meantime, first, all eyes on the United States. This Washington Post headline is kind of interesting. Fascinating about this story is the notion that the Russians view America, and specifically Donald Trump, in a much more pleasing fashion. I don't understand why that might be the case, while the rest of the world has dropped about 15 points in terms of its review of America and its thumbs up. What used to be kind of a more than 60%, yeah, we like America, is now under 50%. And I guess we wonder why that is as well. Interesting piece in the Washington Post. You ought to take a look at it. In the meantime, the rush to try to get our health care completely discombobulated continues with the Republicans in the Senate, but they're having trouble putting this ball across the finish line.
Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's plan to vote on the Republican health care bill this week could be in trouble. 6 GOP senators now say they oppose the health care bill as it's currently written. 4 of them won't even vote for a motion to bring the bill up for a formal debate.
I won't vote to proceed to it unless the bill changes.
Maine Senator Susan Collins is the latest holdout because the Congressional Budget Office score shows the bill would hit Medicaid recipients hard. 1 in 5 Maine residents receive Medicaid support, and the CBO projects that under the Republican plan, 15 million people would be forced out of the program by 2026, resulting in a savings of $321 billion. If the vote doesn't happen this week, lawmakers will face their constituents' concerns when they go home for a week-long July 4th holiday break.
You know, the reality of the matter is we better pay attention to people, many of whom feel very disenfranchised in this country.
Ohio Governor John Kasich and Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper represent the states that expanded Medicaid under Obamacare.
We would see a reduction of, rough justice, 188,000 people in Colorado. More than half of them would be in rural parts of the state.
Groups opposed to the health care bill are running TV ads.
Without Medicaid, she can't manage her diabetes.
Targeting voters in states that helped elect President Trump.
I keep telling you, if we never called it Obamacare, we wouldn't have this going on. This is the politics of personality here, and ironically, most Americans now approve of the Obamacare concept simply because they're petrified about what the Republicans are doing down there, don't have the time, the energy, or the aptitude to be able to figure out what it is they're changing. These Medicaid changes are significant, though, and the light at the end of the tunnel, no matter what the Republicans do, would be that states have to pony up the money to secure the coverage that is eliminated by Medicaid cuts. Because Medicaid is a program that is primarily financed by Republican, by the federal government rather, which is Republican right now. And in Rhode Island, for instance, it's about a $300 million bill. Given that we've got a structural deficit, something we've had ever since I moved here about 18 years ago, and we have a trailing deficit right now of $160 million, if you had that kind of dilemma coming up in the next few years, it would be very, very difficult for the state to try to figure the whole thing out. In the meantime, I don't think those Republicans are going to pass this sucker because at the end of the day, when the dust settles, I think for the most part, they want to be able to say they tried. Because the promises they made during campaigns and the Trump promise, by the way, the Trump promise was all over the map. He didn't even know what he was promising. He had a populist view of health care reform back during the campaign. He supported the Republicans in the House and what they did, and then 3 weeks later told the Senate Republicans that what the House did was mean. The guy has no idea whatsoever at all, period, about what he's doing when it comes to health care. He's discharged this to McConnell in the Senate, and I don't think he's going to bring it across the finish line. And I don't think he really cares. I really don't. I think he just wants to be able to say he did it or attempted to do it. I think we're going to have the tenets of Obamacare for a long time. And if we start calling it the Affordable Care Act, maybe people relax about it. In the meantime, let's come home and talk about what's happening in Pawtucket. 3 cheers, says Lexi, as she writes part of the rundown thing. And, you know, 3 cheers for the governor, who finally got behind the proposal that she said she wanted in the first place. Of course, she bailed when she got a little buck chicken a couple of weeks ago and made an excuse over language where Pawtucket's particular finance problem might not be fully guaranteed by Pawtucket, and if they use state money, it was just a whole bunch of rigmarole bond legal language nonsense. But I guess they've kind of cured it, and now there's a more refined package at the State House. Here's the latest from Eyewitness News.
A new version of the Paw Sox bill set to be introduced in the Senate Tuesday, and the governor is on board.
I urge the Assembly to take it up, give it some hearings, and give it a full and fair vetting.
The governor's support comes after she says the bill was tweaked to ensure the state won't be on the hook if the city defaults on its portion of the loans to fund the construction of the $83 million ballpark.
It was essential that the city backstop its own contribution, and they have in fact done so.
At the end of the day, I don't think this is going to cost the taxpayers of Rhode Island anything.
But just last month, the governor wasn't so confident.
And that's not something that I could support in good conscience.
And Pawtucket Mayor Donald Grevian sounded the alarm.
If there's not a bill on there to say, hey, maybe we'll do something in September, if there's nothing there, I truly believe that we are losing the Paw Sox.
Now, just weeks later, a new bill is set to emerge. State leaders say it's unlikely the bill will be acted on before the end of this session, which is expected to wind down this week. Instead, the governor hopes lawmakers will return for a special session this fall.
I think their plan is to come back in the fall, and I think they should do that.
In the meantime, the minority leader, Patricia Morgan, continues to just bang the drum on this whole thing. She was active today on the radio screaming about how this is just bad for the taxpayers. Those rich fat cats, if they want a stadium, they ought to pay for it themselves. She and I tangled about it here, what last week?
Need a loan from us. If seriously, they don't need a loan from the taxpayers.
McCoy Stadium is financed by the same kind of formula.
If they need to borrow money to build the stadium, they have enough credit. These guys have a couple of $1 billion between them. They can get their own bonds.
All right.
They don't need to put us on the hook. And you know what ends up happening?
Other cities
in 18 years, they're going to want it to be renovated. And who does it then? Oh, the people who own it.
Well, there's actually money in the formula for renovation. Why actually take a look at the proposal when you just want to be emotional about it? Look, the bottom line is the Paw Sox deal here is probably the heaviest ownership investment of any team in AAA baseball up and down the International League. And, you know, you got to take a look at industry behavior when you evaluate something like this in a total composite. We are already in a public-private partnership with McCoy Stadium. This is another version of it. They got to make sure it's tight and almost risk-free for the taxpayers. The $2 million of cash flow revenue that comes from the existing declining attendance right there is sufficient to actually finance the state, and the development will cure the Pawtucket bonds on this whole thing. I would thumbs up this deal. I don't know whether or not the Paw Sox are going to be able to hold on through September, though, and trust government. They have no trust so far for all the hoops they've had to jump through. And I will tell you that there are other cities in New England that are very aggressive. And by the way, we'll put a proposal together that is a whole lot less expensive for the Paw Sox ownership. So stay tuned. We'll see. I just want to check in on this really controversial bill. This domestic violence bill is something that it causes people to argue in directions that really aren't germane to the point. The headline and then the Eyewitness News coverage of this.
Amid the applause of supporters, a cry of treason in chambers as a contentious act designed to protect domestic violence victims makes its way through the House.
It's been a long 3-4 years.
Sponsored by Representative Teresa Tansey for the past 3 years, the bill is meant to protect Rhode Island families from domestic abusers with guns.
From 1980 to 2016, 48% of all domestic violence homicides were committed with a gun.
The bill would require anyone under a final protection order from family court or anyone who's been convicted of a domestic violence misdemeanor to surrender their gun to police within a matter of hours.
As written, This is a flawed piece of legislation.
Opponents say the bill is misleading, that it doesn't actually protect domestic violence victims.
The gun doesn't do the domestic violence, it's the person that shoots.
House Minority Leader Patricia Morgan brought up a point that was echoed by many on Monday.
This goes to the heart of what we in America value, which is our constitutional rights.
But former victims say this concerns the right to safety.
Well, the first time that we were threatened with a gun was when I was only 3 years old. It's actually my very first memory.
Rachel Jaros' family fell victim to domestic violence growing up. She says Monday's passage is a necessary push for protection.
This is a really important issue for family safety, and I'm really, really elated today.
Yeah, obviously it's emotional, and nobody wants to see escalation of domestic abuse or protection of domestic abusers. The argument that Patricia Morgan, twice in the rundown here, is making, though, is off the mark. I mean, you get into this whole Second Amendment by-rote scripted argument, and you miss the point. The best arguments against this legislation are that there's a lot of non-due diligence that the courts sometimes employ in sticking people with problems here. In other words, she says this, you're in, you got an order, guess what? You got no defense, and by the way, turn in your guns. That's the sticky wicket that I still think needs to be hammered out in the Senate. So stay tuned for that. And make your argument there, seems to me. All right, real quick, unions are pulling a fast one here, and no later than Thursday, there will be a vote across the board, perhaps a committee vote tomorrow in the House that allows for this perpetual contract to go on. Simply stated, like I said last night, please get a hold of your legislators, because every municipal leader is freaking over this situation. The unions have a bill here that protects them with language from an expired contract in perpetuity, which really doesn't give them much motive to go back to the table, and could cost you, as a taxpayer, a lot of money. This is a sneaky one, and it needs a lot of attention on the radio on WPRO tomorrow for sure. There's a press conference that municipal leaders will have through the League of Cities and Towns. Tomorrow we'll follow that, and no later than Thursday we'll be on top of this, hopefully in time to make the difference on the vote. All right, to the Boy Scouts we go, but first I just want to tell you that Navigant Credit Union and the Card Valet program is something you ought to take a good hard look at. Right in your palm of your hand is all the banking information you'd ever want to have. This is not just online banking. This is hyper online banking. Take a look at what Card Valet can provide for you, and become a member of the Navigant Credit Union, which is simple as opening up an account. Member NCUA. Enjoy life's journey with Navigant. Right back. Yawgoog, 102 years. The boss of the Boy Scouts is here. You got the uniform going and the whole. This is this is the casual look. This is the we're going camping at Yawgoog look.
That's right.
Good to see you, Tim.
Yeah.
Big year.
Big year. Yeah. 102 years now.
Why is 102 significant?
It is, because our second century launching into, and our program is as strong as ever, and our attendance of scouts at Camp Yawgoog is as strong as ever and growing, and that bodes well for the second century of scouting at Camp Yawgoog.
You know, this is really fascinating. I've never met a scout who's gone through any extended time, not necessarily the Eagle, but all the way through it, that doesn't have that young person write stuff. In other words, there's a structure and a value system and a citizen type of flavor that comes through the Boy Scout exercise that seems to be consistent for the decades. Hasn't changed much. I'll tell you, it's encouraging to hear that there's more. It's more than ever.
Right.
Because there's a lot of organized stuff that's kind of bifurcating and fracturing all over the place on all generational levels right now. So talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, so there's no question that there's more competition for kids' time today for all kinds of different activities. But in fact, our fall recruiting campaign last year was up 24% over the prior year.
What do you attribute that to?
Better messaging of what the value is that scouting provides to kids, and better messaging to parents about why they should want their son, what benefit their son's going to get out of the program. The benefits that you just alluded to, that there is a difference that happens after a period of involvement in the scouting program. In fact, Tufts University just finished up a study last year where they evaluated 2,000 kids. Some joined Cub Scouting, some did not. And they measured the same on various character traits before they did anything. But 3 years later, those kids who joined Cub Scouting showed a marked improvement in every category they measured.
And you attribute that to what? What are you guys doing?
Structured, meaningful activity for boys that's hands-on, and it gets them in an informal educational environment with good role models and reinforcing at every step of the way good values, good choices, and giving them, through the Scout Oath and Scout Law, a code of ethics to live up to. We don't do that in today's society anymore, where we're giving kids something to strive to live towards. One of the biggest things that they found, that after involvement of 3 years in a scouting program, one of the biggest improvements they showed is kids who joined scouting had greater hopefulness for their future. In other words, kids in scouting began to set goals, began to see for themselves a future that they didn't know ahead of time before they got involved in scouting. So through scouting, where we expose them to a good future through our camp opportunities at Camp Yawgoog and our other camps, we show them about potential careers that they can pursue. And one of the most important things for boys today, in school, a lot of it is book work, it's sitting in classroom, kids have to behave, they have to sit at a desk, they have to line up, those kinds of things. In scouting, we work very hard to provide that unstructured but safe environment for boys to be physical, to act, to run, to jump, to do archery, to shoot a BB gun, to rock climb, to whitewater raft, to work out that physical energy, but in an environment where they're learning from each other, they're learning from older kids in the program, and they're learning from the adult leaders.
What do you think the essential difference is between the Scouts and, say, just throw the kid in Little League?
Great.
He's got a good coach over there. He'll learn a lot of things. Tell me, I mean, obviously, the multiple concepts you just threw out there are more than throwing, catching, and hitting balls.
Yes.
But from a mental and growth point of view, if a parent says, hey, listen, there's just so much we can do.
Right.
You got Little League, and you know what I mean?
Get it. Right. I've got 3 sons.
Right.
They're now out of
So what's
the
the add-on value, and what's the distinction in terms of what the program delivers?
Here's the difference. Sports is great. All my kids did sports. It was awesome. But what scouting did that sports didn't do, that Little League didn't do, is that a young man becomes a scout. He is learning from older kids. Where in today's culture does a 10-year-old have a 16-year-old young man teaching him in a positive, supportive environment?
By the way, that 10 to 16 thing, I remember being 10, and 16-year-old guys, to me, were on some levels as impressively older than my parents were. Remember that? Right. I mean, from 10 to 16, that's a big difference.
It's a huge difference.
36 to 42, it's no big deal.
Right.
But 10 to 16 is a big deal for kids.
Yeah, and for a 10-year-old, a 16-year-old can be scared the bejeebers out of them. And it can be this awesome thing. But when it's in a positive environment where the 16-year-old is taking an interest in a 10-year-old and teaching them the scout skills, teaching them how to camp, how to survive in the woods, we don't exist to teach kids how to survive. What we exist for is for a 16-year-old to teach a 10-year-old how to survive in the woods. That's where the magic happens. And as the kids progress into Boy Scouting, they begin to take on leadership roles. That's something that doesn't typically happen in other programs.
Yeah, okay, so that's important. I'll tell you, I've been bothered by a lot of, I think our gender has gotten a little whipping lately. We'll talk about that when we come back. Stay with us. Listen, by the way, go to our website at foxprovidence.com and link into this website, which is beascot.org. Every parent would find every reason to and details for getting their young boy involved in scouting, correct?
They'll learn all about the different programs and find the program nearest them.
There's some interesting data. We'll throw this up, Kev. If you got a big screen, you can see some of this. That big number, 13,000 youth members involved in scouting programs. This is what, with the Narragansett Council specifically?
Yes, just in Rhode Island and southeast Massachusetts.
215,000 pounds of food, nearly 9,000 scouts attending camp, nearly 4,000 trained adult volunteers. That's amazing. 254 reach Eagle Scout, and 40,000 hours of community service, and it goes on and on. 254 Eagles.
Just last year.
That's pretty good. You got to work your tail off to be an Eagle, right?
Yeah, one of those 254 kids, to get to that point, they have been involved in scouting anywhere from 6 to 12 years at that point in time. That doesn't just happen by showing up. They have worked hard, they've applied themselves, they've set goals.
And usually they're older teens.
Generally, they're going to get it anywhere from 15, 16, 17 years old.
There's got to be a point when they're 10, when they're 11, 12, 13, when the peer pressure from non-scouts kind of gets them and says, come on, man.
Right.
Really? Scouts? Really? Right? Right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what one of the things that we are challenged by is to make sure that we're providing adventure for kids. Boys love adventure. And through our camps, that's one of the reasons our camps are so instrumental, is to provide adventure so that they crave that and they want to keep coming back for that, to balance that potential peer pressure.
Listen, I'm a dual gender supporter. There's only 2 of them. Well, it's 2017. Let's not get into it. But I do kind of feel I'm very upset with the governor, with her Governor for a Day program exclusively for girls. She and I have had arguments about that. I'm not asking you to get in the middle of that argument specifically, but are you seeing any kind of? Do you feel the kind of trend that I'm starting to feel, which is that, you know, we get beat up pretty good. We get laughed at as fathers and role models. Boys seem to have a little less emphasis. Am I missing something, or am I feeling something that you feel? I don't agree if you don't agree, but
yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I do see it. I do see it. There's a good focus for the young ladies, and there needs to be. But in some cases, maybe we've lost sight for the boys.
Has the pendulum just swung a little,
right.
You know, more than the 50% it should have, is my point, I guess.
Right. So I feel a special calling with the Boy Scouts that we've got to be even better of reaching out to young men to get them involved, to provide to them good role models and provide to them opportunities where they can be part of a gang, but a positive gang. So they can be part of activities that are structured and positive that keep them going in the right direction. I think everyone wants what we provide for the kids. It's just a matter of if it works for them, and can we provide a way to do that for them. And that's what our challenge is to break down any barriers there might be for a family to have their son in scouting. So that's what we're challenged by, because there needs to be that program for boys. And one of the things I think that we often forget is boys and girls have their own ways of learning and their own ways of developing. We need to cater to boys to provide to them particularly that opportunity to be active, to work out, whether it's through sports and scouting. We do it through that outdoor program.
Get out from behind the damn iPad,
yes.
The phone. Do you make them throw them away at least for a couple of hours?
Yeah, so I was just out at camp the last couple of days and watching the kids, and we get them unplugged at camp, and that's really valuable. I think it's so great when kids learn, and I've seen this happen so many times. A 10 or 11-year-old at camp realizes he can have a blast not on video games.
Yeah, I think everyone could learn that. Continued success. Welcome to Rhode Island a year later.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're not a Rhode Islander yet, though. Give it 20 years.
All right.
Good to see it. All right, listen. Go to the website and learn all the information on foxprovidence.com. Final word, and we come back. Stay with us. Engaged on some of the issues still at the General Assembly, including this. Just tell your rep and senator not to vote for the evergreen bill, because the towns are going to choke on it. We'll talk about it on radio tomorrow and here on the television later in the week. See ya. Bye.